was appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women 6 months ago. When I was 8, I was confused being called bossy because I wanted to direct the plays that we would put on for our parents, but the boys were not. When at 14, I started to be sexualized by certain elements of the media. When at 15, my girlfriends started dropping out of their beloved sports teams because they didn't want to appear muscly. When at 18, my male friends were unable to express their feelings. I decided that I was a feminist, and this seemed uncomplicated to me. But my recent research has shown me that feminism has become an unpopular word. Apparently, I am among the ranks of women whose expressions are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, and anti-men, unattractive even. Why has the word become such an uncomfortable one?
My body, my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice! It is my body till they cut the umbilical cord, motherfucker! Yes, it is! No, it's not! No, it is not! My body, my choice!
But sadly, I can say that there is no one country in the world where all women can expect to receive these rights. No country in the world can yet say that they have achieved gender equality. These rights I consider to be human rights, but I am one of the lucky ones. My life is a sheer privilege because my parents didn't love me less because I was born a daughter. My school did not limit me because I was a girl. My mentors didn't assume that I would go less far because I might give birth to a child one day. These influences were the gender equality ambassadors that made me who I am today. They may not know it, but they are the inadvertent feminists who are changing the world today. We need more of those. And if you still hate the word, it is not the word that is important. It's the idea and the ambition behind it.
My body, my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice! Stop talking about women's reproductive rights when you've got a dick! No! No! No, it's not! You're a man, you don't get to comment about me having a fucking baby! No!
If you're a woman, you can't talk about my manliness. I'm sorry.
I did it! You're showing me, no, honey! You're showing everyone that you're a bitch by what you're doing right here!
Am I?
I'm not doing that!
God bless you.
That's all you, bitch! That's all you showing that you're a piece of shit!
Masculinity right here. God bless men. God bless women and God bless men. It's time for men to be men and women to be women.
My body, my choice! My body, my choice! Until they cut the umbilical cord, yes, it fucking is! My body, my choice! I've had 2 abortions!
That's terrible.
I don't give a fuck! It's my body, it's my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice! Call me a how many times have you jerked off into a sock or into your hand or onto the floor or on whatever? Babies.
Nothing by itself. Nothing by itself. Babies don't grow out of semen. You ain't gonna make a baby. You don't make a baby with semen. I'm sorry.
Shut up. No. My body,
Now your body.
my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice! My body, my choice!
Because not all women have received the same rights that I have. In fact, statistically, very few have been.
Hello. You may have wondered what warranted me to be standing on the stage today. Or you may have wondered how good of a feminist I am that I deserve to be speaking about such a commonly spoken about topic. The simple answer to both of these questions is, I have no idea. The simple reason why I am known as the local feminist in Espeja is because I am fierce, I am confident, and I am not afraid to fight anyone, anytime. In a room full of men, I will take charge. In a group of girls, I will take charge. And this doesn't always go well with a lot of people, which is why I'm not the most liked person around. The biggest problem that I see today that we could actually tackle is that a lot of women are still considered anti-feminists because they display stereotypically feminine traits. It is also a problem because if women were not to display these stereotypically feminine traits, they're considered unattractive or even undesirable by society. We are trying so hard to become like men in order to stand on equal grounds with them that we are inadvertently oppressing women. What I am proposing to you all today in this speech is that all women should be feminists. This does not mean that I would like every woman in the world to admit and proclaim that they are feminists, nor do I mean we should shove feminism down their throats. However, what I am simply proposing to you today is that the interests and the actions of all women should be considered feminist. If this is a movement to champion women, then we cannot afford to marginalize any woman. The interests of women should be a priority in feminism, not because we do not care about men or that we do not want to include them in the feminist movement. However, it is important to champion women right now because we need to help the disadvantaged sex. I'm not saying we should condone the actions of women who support domestic abuse or feel like they deserve to be treated horribly. However, I'm applying this concept to women who choose to be housewives, to women who choose to be stereotypically feminine in nature, to women who love to cook, who love to make crafts, or who even likes the color pink. I'm applying this to whenever any of us scoff at women who refuse to speak up, who refuse to challenge men in a professional setting. I'm applying this to any woman who seem like they are not a good enough feminist because they are more demure in nature or refuse to be more aggressive or assertive. Perhaps these women are simply shyer in nature, just like a lot of men are, and it is unfair for us to call them bad feminists or even setting the movement backwards if they refuse to conform to what we define as being a good feminist. Some people would argue that we cannot simply consider the actions of all women to be feminist. Because what if they like playing with Barbie dolls and kitchen sets because they've been poisoned by the patriarchy or gender norms? To this, I tell you that you are actually enforcing the patriarchy. By limiting what women can and cannot do, or what women can and cannot like, you are succumbing to the fact that the patriarchy wants to limit what women can do. Do you see how ironic it is that by not allowing women to express themselves in their own ways, but instead restraining them to become more masculine, we are in fact setting the movement backwards and even glorifying men forward together? We should not be afraid to challenge what the feminist movement needs to do. What I am suggesting to you today is different from the traditional feminist arguments. I am taking us a step back, not to work with the system, but to change the way we look at the system. In the past, the objectives of feminists have always been material, whether it is to achieve new laws or rights. But what we need right now is a philosophical change, a mindset upheaval of what equality and quote-unquote crushing the patriarchy looks like.
There it was. There I was thinking it was just me that had a problem, but it turns out it's the air conditioning that's sexist.
I know. So many women in our office have the exact same problem. You know, we just sit there absolutely freezing at our desks trying to type. You can probably tell I've got a cold right now, which I blame all on the AC. And so it's just so actually quite nice to see this research. It's just such a relief to know that there's actually proof that this is happening, that women, you know, do feel the cold more than men, and that the AC in offices is normally regulated more for a male's temperature than a woman's.
Trying to figure out like what the right amount of space for a person to take up on the train is. Are you familiar with the term manspreading? Manspreading?
No, I'm not.
Are you familiar with the term manspreading?
Manspreading? Never heard of it before in my life.
I think that's probably because we made it up.
Manspreading?
Manspreading. Okay, so it's this phenomenon we've noticed when men tend to sit with their legs much wider than women do, and a lot of the time it takes up like a whole lot of space. And you're not taking up a ton of space, but you're taking up a little bit of space. Have you noticed?
No, I didn't.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. It's not. I hope it's not sexual.
Manspreading. I'm guessing that's the leg as I'm doing like this.
That was a perfect definition.
We have no choice to have our legs like that, you know what I mean?
I do.
You feel me? So, yeah, so it's different for a woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, so, yeah, of course, man. If you notice, every man on the train has their legs wide open. Am I correct?
You are.
But you have to.
Full amount, I think.
So what is that? Can you measure it? So that's like...
This is an inch shift.
Yeah, just do maybe like your from like inner knee to inner knee. It's like 11.
Okay.
What is like, so the right distance between your legs is?
6.5 inches.
6.5 inches.
6 inches, yeah.
Would you mind measuring the correct distance? So that's 11. 7 inches?
I'm a big guy too, don't worry. I'm 6'2".
Let's see, from 18 inches from outside to outside.
In the gender equality stakes, Sweden is rated highly, but some Swedes feel it's being taken to extremes. It has the highest proportion of working women in the world, and some 2/3 of university degrees are earned by women. New mothers and fathers both get generous parental leave. Gender role neutrality initiatives, however, some feel are being exaggerated. There's a politician who proposed that men should be required by law to urinate in a sitting position, partly because it leaves toilets cleaner and promotes prostate health, partly as an appeal for reason. Here's that politician. When my son was in kindergarten, they tried to force him to pee standing up, when we had taught him to pee sitting down. When the school let him sit down to pee, there was no problem. I had read about a school in Norway that officially banned boys stand-up peeing. Lots of people's reaction was that was taking away boys' right to be boys. Anne Helena Rudberg joined the feminist movement in the 1970s to fight for women's rights because she saw her mother suffer violence at home. Today, she argues women have equal rights and that feminist political parties are taking things too far.
It's a power struggle between men and women, I think. And the effect of that is that we have got, on one side we have women and on the other side men, and this is not good for the children or for anyone.
At this school in Stockholm, teaching gender equality is a priority. Boys and girls are encouraged not to be limited by stereotypical roles or games.
It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals. If we stop defining each other by what we are not, and start defining ourselves by who we are, we can all be freer. And this is what he, she is about. It's about freedom. I want men to take up this mantle so that their daughters, sisters, and mothers can be free from prejudice, but also so that their sons have permission to be vulnerable and human too. Reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete version of themselves.
And since last year, there's a new word in the Swedish dictionary, hen, which is a neutral pronoun for he or she. Not everyone agrees about that.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious! Boys to girls, and that's, of course, not what we are doing. We like to give every human being the same rights, the same possibilities, the same responsibilities. And that is a question of democracy.
Some critics say Sweden's government is taking a feminist agenda to an almost radical level. Others, who also take International Women's Day seriously, say the fight for gender equality is far from over.
Honourable Member for Halifax.
On Friday, I will celebrate the 85th anniversary of the Persons case with fellow feminists at a breakfast in Halifax for LEAF, the Women's Legal Education and Action Fund. Professor Eula Hughes will speak on the history of legal disputes for abortion access in New Brunswick, which is timely as their Morgenthaler clinic closed this summer. This was the only facility in the province where women could get an abortion free of restrictions, and it served women in New Brunswick and PEI. Why do women in the Maritimes still have to fight for a right that was granted 26 years ago to all Canadian women? 85 years ago, we became persons in the eyes of the law in this country, and 85 years later, women in the Maritimes still face inequalities regarding access to abortion facilities. Today, I stand in solidarity with women in New Brunswick and PEI who say, my body, my choice. Happy Persons Day, Mr. Speaker, the day in 1929 when women were declared persons under the law. 85 years later, we still stand committed to confronting all forms of discrimination to achieve equality for women and girls.
I think it is right that I should be able to make decisions about my own body. I think
now it's time to trust women. Talk to your friends. Listen to each other. Try and understand how they're feeling. Because there's a lot more room for change. Not incite shame and division, but promote education, tolerance, and compassion. Our body, our choice.
You can, and pull hard. And when it finally pops free, out comes a leg that big, which you put down on the table next to you. You know you did it right if you crush down on the clamp and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you can pull out skull pieces. If you had a day like I had a lot of days, sometimes a face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations. You just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
So we sent the truck out to pick up the container.
I rolled out there and took the box up and started pulling it up. And it was so heavy, it just it broke the winch.
And we couldn't get it off the trailer, so we had to leave it on the trailer because it was too heavy. So I was asked by Nick to have a crew go down and unload the container at the other yard.
I got a radio call that from Ron Gillette, the foreman, and he said the men were throwing up and there was something really wrong.
One of them fell down and hit me right in front of my feet. And it was opened up, and there it was. It was a mutilated body. And the more closer I looked at it, it was a human body.
And when I came to work the following day, I saw it myself. I couldn't believe it. And just little babies, just all quarter pieces. Their heads chopped off, arms, legs, it just makes you sick to see something like that. Well, it really just, it makes you want to cry when you see something like that.
starting at the very front of this container, it was just wall clear to the ceiling and clear to the sides, filled with them.
I really don't want to witness it again. Not what I saw.
Friends, I pray, sir, you gotta repent, sir. You gotta repent, sir, for murdering babies.
Why?
Because it's a sin before God.
Why?
Wow.
Stinky breath.
Yeah,
Why?
that's pretty evil of you, sir.
Yeah, I am.
And I hope and pray that you.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you do to babies, huh?
Yeah, I love it.
You love it, huh?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I hope that you come to Christ, sir.
Oh, I never go to Christ.
I hope that you come to Christ,
No,
sir.
I don't go to Christ.
Yeah,
I don't listen to Christ.
You will have a darkened heart, sir.
I do have a darkened heart. Yeah.
You have a darkened heart.
I do, very, very much
And
so.
you will stand
Yeah.
before God in judgment day.
Yes, I
one day.
will. Every day.
You will stand before God in judgment
Yes,
day.
I
one
will.
day.
Every day.
All of the babies that
I
you have
love it.
killed.
I love it.
Yeah, keep tearing the babies
Yeah,
apart.
I will.
Keep tearing the babies
I
apart.
will.
Keep tearing the babies apart.
Oh.
Yes, sir. The babies, their blood screams from the ground.